Welcome to the Every Mom is an Athlete podcast, where we believe that motherhood is inherently athletic. I see you lifting car seats, chasing toddlers, and carrying groceries one-handed while holding a baby and a coffee. Your daily life is a workout. I'm Dr. Karlie, pregnancy and postpartum expert, sports chiropractor, strength coach, entrepreneur, and mom of three. Here you'll find solo episodes and real conversations with other moms and leading experts, so you can live your strongest, healthiest, most aligned life in motherhood. No matter how long it's been since you've had your baby, whether you're reconnecting with your body, rebuilding your strength, or just figuring out what feels good again, you're in the right place. Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Dr. Karlie Kazi, and today we are going to be talking about the thing I get asked the most questions about online, in person, in my clinic as a chiropractor, and that is, how do we start postpartum rehab? Where do we start? What's safe? What's most effective? So we're going to dive into all of that today. And I want you to know this episode is for you no matter when you had your baby. So I like to say postpartum is forever. That means that whether you're 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years postpartum, you can heal your pelvic floor, your core, all kinds of things that maybe changed during your pregnancy. We can make improvements to that and improve the quality of life, improve your quality of fitness. And so it's not just for those first 6 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is after birth. We're talking like lifelong postpartum. So let's get into it. I want to start just kind of talking about my story and how I started creating these programs and why I felt the need for it. So after I had my first son just over 5 years ago, I had purchased an online plan, and I really am a firm believer in every coach needs a coach. So even though like I help women in my office with this, I was like, I want a plan that I can just follow. I don't want to be trying to make up my own thing. That's what I always tell my patients and clients is like, don't just pick random stuff off the internet. You need a plan. So I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to my own advice. I'm going to get a plan. So I bought a plan. And then what I found was that I was adding this little exercise here, this little exercise there of things that I would give my patients in my office. And so pretty soon I was like, this is not even close to the plan I started with. Now I've like created a whole new plan. And so that got me in the road to creating an actual plan that was my own. And initially the idea was, okay, I'm going to use this for myself, but I'm also going to use it for my patients in my office because every time someone comes in right now, I'm like reinventing the wheel. So this will be great. I'll just have kind of this framework and then we can work from there. Then COVID hit. And as so many of us did during COVID who are business owners, there were so many things that just had to pivot and shift. And so a girlfriend of mine was like, you have to get this online. Moms don't want to go into the office. They're nervous about, we didn't know what was going on with COVID, right? So they didn't want to like take their babies out. They're newly postpartum. And so that sort of started me on, okay, let's get this online for women so they can do it at home. They don't need to go into a gym for it. They need minimal equipment and it's really efficient. Like they can get it done in like 20 to 25 minutes a day. So that's sort of what started me on this journey. And I just found that so many women just don't know where to start and don't feel like they have the time to do it. And so my goal was to sort of break that down and say like, no, you can totally do this in 20 to 25 minutes a day, 4 days a week with the right plan, right? And so today we're going to talk about what that looks like and what that plan could be for you. So let's start talking about like, first of all, do we need to wait 6 weeks to start this plan, right? To start actually working on our postpartum healing. And if you know me at all, you know my answer is going to be no, we do not need to wait that first 6 weeks postpartum. So you have your baby. Traditionally, people say like, okay, wait 6 weeks till you're cleared for exercise. That 6-week appointment, just depending on where you are in the country and what provider you're seeing, if you see an OB or a midwife, that 6-week appointment can either be really valuable. Like I've had patients and even myself with working with midwives who have basically had a pelvic exam, have been able to talk about the diastasis or the ab separation and how they're healing that and like had really good appointments. I've also had patients who literally like go in, say, I feel good. And the doctor's like, okay, great. You can start working out. Like just like a really useless appointment. So it just really, it can vary so much just depending on so many factors. So I definitely recommend going to your 6-week appointment, but I think that providers like pelvic floor physical therapists, like pregnancy and postpartum chiropractors like myself, or even pregnancy and postpartum fitness experts are really well more positioned to help you like heal some of these physical things to get you back to a high level of fitness, potentially than your OB. Like they just don't have time, like, or really generally the knowledge. So I'll get off my little soapbox there. So let's go back to you have your baby. Okay, now what do I do? So I generally start my patients off with breathing and bracing, and we'll go through that in just a sec. But like as soon as they feel ready, okay? So as soon as they're feeling like, all right, I'm ready to start, just like kind of reconnecting with my body and feeling like I'm working towards getting back to an more athletic version of myself. Granted, like giving birth is the most athletic thing. So don't get me wrong there, but you know what I mean? Getting back to like your fitness routine that you want to get back into. So what that looks like is, and we'll all do it together here for a minute. So put your hands, go ahead. Hopefully, if you're not driving, you could do this. If you're driving, maybe wait till later, but you're going to put your hands at the bottom of your rib cage. Okay. And then we're going to take a really deep breath in. But what I want you to do is think about not moving your chest, but letting your belly expand out as you breathe in, and not just out in front, but like all the way around. So that's why I want your hands on your sides, right at the bottom of your ribs, so you can feel the expansion there too. And then your thumbs should even be able to feel like kind of along your back as you breathe in. So take a big breath in through the nose. As you breathe out, you're going to think about pulling your stomach in and also slightly lifting your pelvic floor. And then you're going to totally relax. Okay. And that is the start of breathing in postpartum recovery. And so when people are like, I can't believe you have people start before 6 weeks, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's breathing. This is what it looks like. Like if you think this is dangerous, then we got a whole other problem because you breathe all day long, every day. Let's try again. So hands on the ribs, the thumbs are right on your back. And so then all your fingers are sort of along your abdomen on the side. Take a big breath in. Let that belly expand all the way around, and then breathe out. Pull your two hip bones together slightly and lift the pelvic floor as you're breathing out. So I start my patients with that. We're talking like 5 to 10 breaths at a time, a couple times a day. Okay. And what we're doing there is a bunch of different things. We're engaging the pelvic floor and the diaphragm, which is your breathing muscle that kind of sits right underneath your ribs on the top. They work together. So they move like up and down together. And that diaphragm also gets super crammed up in there while you're pregnant, right? Because the baby is taking up so much room. Your organs are all shifted around. And so it's also really great to just like get some expansion and get some movement in that diaphragm. So that's another reason we do this. A third reason is because it really is going to help down-regulate your system. So it's going to help kind of calm your nervous system down. Tons of research behind that on breathing drills, right? And so this is just sort of taking that like nervous system calming and then body kind of physical healing and combining it together. And it just sounds so simple. And I remember before I had kids, I remember thinking like, okay, everyone is getting into this breathing stuff. And it's like so silly. It's just breathing. We breathe all day. Like who doesn't know how to breathe? And then I had a baby myself, and I could really feel how transformative it was to actually like feel those muscles and feel things engage. And like, oh, now that like my abdomen is not like so stretched out with a baby in there, I can like start to re-engage those muscles. And it just is so valuable. So don't sleep on the breathing drills. I know they're boring. I tell my patients all the time, they are boring. It feels so basic, but that is your foundation. And then you can get to the cooler, sexier stuff down the road. But we got to build the foundation first. I'm sorry it's boring, but that is what it is. Okay. So that's where we start, right? So what do we do next? We're reconnecting our core. We're doing our breathing. We're doing that for the first couple weeks. There are other things in my postpartum plan. I have other things built in, obviously, into those first couple weeks. And that can look like glute bridges. We really want to focus on engaging the glutes early on. And the reason is because our glutes are directly connected to our pelvic floor. And so this way, we like don't have to necessarily be doing Kegels all day long, because that's not what we should be doing either. In this way, we can engage our glutes and work on our pelvic floor sort of automatically, right? Without having to think about it. Our glutes, as they work, are going to be engaging that pelvic floor without us even knowing it really. So That looks like glute bridges. That looks like squats. That looks like hill walking or hip hinges. All those kind of things are going to be great, again, to re-engage those glutes. Now, let's go back to talking about breathing here. Let's take a hip hinge, for example. So this would be where like either a deadlift movement. So think about your feet are right underneath you. You're pushing your butt back to the wall behind you, kind of as you let your chest go to the floor and then standing straight back up. Okay. So that's the movement we're talking about. When we do that movement, we're going to take our breath in. We're going to hinge down. We're going to breathe out through the movement and then stand back up. Okay. So I like to say through the hardest part of the movement is when you're going to breathe out, again, because that's engaging your pelvic floor automatically. So think about a squat. We're going to take our breath in at the top, breathe out at the bottom. As soon as we hit the bottom, we breathe out, and then we're going to stand back up. Okay. So again, just thinking about engaging the pelvic floor without having to actually think about it too much. Okay. So that's other stuff that you can start really early on. And again, remember, we're talking about an uncomplicated vaginal birth. Okay. If you had severe tearing, if you had a C-section, this looks very different. Okay. And with my C-section plan, actually, that I've designed, it's designed to start at about 2 weeks postpartum is about the earliest you want to start it. Many women don't even start it that early. They start more in like the 3 to 4 week range, which is totally fine. I always encourage people to start whenever they feel ready. But again, you had major surgery, so we're not starting like day one, except with the breathing. You can start with the breathing day one if you feel so inclined. So I just want to reemphasize, this stuff is not sexy. It's like sort of boring, but it's going to build you a foundation and set you up for success down the road. I can't emphasize that enough. So let's talk about when we're like able to sort of add more intensity or start adding on, things that are a little bit harder. So a couple things you want to do. There's all kinds of things out there. If you're looking online, if you live in this like pregnancy fitness world like I do, people are always talking about coning, doming, which is basically what happens to your abdomen because there is that separation. There's studies that show that 100% of women do have ab separation at like 36 weeks of pregnancy. It's just like a supernatural, super normal thing that has to happen, right? Because like your muscles have to stretch and your baby has to go somewhere. So really normal to have that separation. I just don't want you to be worried about that. If you're currently pregnant, like I have people all the time like, oh, I don't want to get ab separation. Well, you're going to get ab separation. But what we want to do during pregnancy is minimize making it worse. Okay. So minimize tons of coning and doming and really work on engaging the muscles that you have and sort of controlling the pressure there so that that abdomen doesn't like poke out and turn into a little cone. That's what we're talking about there. So once the baby comes out, now we want to work on sort of restabilizing. And I really don't like the idea that we need to like close that gap because for a lot of women, that's not going to happen. Anatomically, the muscles and the fascia, which is the connective tissue, it's not going to like come all the way back together. And that's totally fine. What we want to do is be able to control the pressure with breathing, with bracing our core, with our muscles, so that we can have a nice stable core and not like feel that coning happening, okay? Because then we have other problems that can start. We can get low back issues, low back pain. We can have sort of problems down the chain, like in the hips, in the knees, all that kind of stuff, because we're not able to hold our core solid enough. So don't worry so much about, if you still have that gap there. I had a gap before I even had kids and I still have it, but I can like now close it functionally, not necessarily anatomically with the muscles, but functionally, I can stabilize it and create nice pressure there so that my core is nice and stable. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about like kind of fixing the diastasis, quote unquote. What we're talking about is really just building stability there. Okay. So that's like one of the goals of those first few weeks, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of programs like my postpartum program. That's the goal, is doing some really simple things to improve your core in that way. Okay. The other things that we want to look for is sort of signs that you're ready to add more intensity. We want to make sure we're not having any pelvic floor pain, any leaking. And then we want to look at our energy levels. Like, how are we actually feeling with sleep? And like, how's our newborn sleeping? Like, if your kid is not sleeping at all, like, you're probably not feeling the best to like really start increasing your levels of fitness, right? So that's why I encourage women, like with my plans, to like just maybe do those couple weeks again, and then when you're feeling like things are a little more stable, you can move on. Okay. So we have to really take that into consideration. Energy levels during pregnancy, of course, because you're building a freaking human. And then in postpartum, when it's like things are all over the place. Some nights you get some sleep, some nights you get zero sleep. So it's really, you want to pay attention to that and give yourself a lot of grace. Okay. You have my permission to give yourself a lot of grace on that. So let's talk about some common mistakes I see that new moms make as they're sort of getting back into this fitness journey. Okay. So the first thing I would say is that women go too hard too fast. Okay. And what I like to remind my patients is I work with some really high level athletes, but also like a lot of moms who just want to get back out and be able to run a couple times a week or do a CrossFit class or a Barry's boot camp or Orange Theory or whatever it is. Okay. What I like to remind those moms and what I encourage you to think about is think about these top level athletes, these soccer players, beach volleyball players, Serena Williams, these amazing women who've had babies. Do you think that they are like back out doing their sport like 2 weeks after they have a baby? No, ma'am. They should not be. And I can guarantee you that most of them aren't because they have personal trainers, physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists. They have all these people working on their team, which is going to help them get their body back into that sort of condition to be able to compete quicker. But B, they're going to have the knowledge to help them build this foundation. Okay. So I like to just remind people that like us, those like these like weekend warriors, we're the ones who want to like jump back in and like, I can get right back to lifting. Like, no. You think that these high level athletes do it, but they don't. And so we should not either. So that's why I encourage you, start with the basics, start with the breathing, start with the bracing, go really slow, make it boring for those first, at least 12 weeks. And then you can start getting a little sexier with your workouts and with the stuff that you're adding in. The other thing I want you to think about is running your own race, okay? So not looking at what like Becky on Instagram is doing, okay? Because remember, social media is a highlight reel, so you don't really know what she's doing anyways. But we also just want to like pay attention to our own timelines. It's such a valuable, vulnerable, beautiful time after you have a baby. And there's just so many emotions, so many feelings. And like, I think just staying in your own lane can really help and really embracing the small wins, right? Like I encourage the moms I work with, make a plan. The way I design my postpartum plan, it's designed in like, so every day has like 3 to 5 exercises. Okay. And so it's written so that you can do it as a circuit, but it's also written so that you could do each one on its own. So for example, you could say, okay, every time I nurse the baby and then burp her, and then I'm going to put her down and I'm going to do the first exercise on my list. Okay. Or if you're working off of a different plan, let's say it's glute bridges. Okay. So every time I put down the baby, I'm going to do 3 sets of 30-second glute bridge holds. Okay. And that's your first exercise. And there you go. Now you've knocked it out. It doesn't have to be in one big chunk. And that allows you a couple things. It allows you some small wins, like, okay, you did part of what you said you're going to do. And that is going to build confidence and just help you feel good about like working back towards this level of fitness that you want to achieve, right? But then also, it just is more realistic for new moms, right? Because maybe you don't have 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, but you can sneak in like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. When the baby's super young, put them on the floor with you, do it with them. So just a couple things to think about, like really focus on what you're doing, focus on those small wins, and that goes a long ways, again, just to build our confidence back. All right. Well, I hope that helps give you some actionable things to start on. If you're newly postpartum, start with that breathing, with the pelvic floor lift, start there. Or if you are not newly postpartum, but you never did any postpartum rehab, I'd also encourage you to start there because you might see a big difference in how you engage your core, your pelvic floor, and how that all works together, even if you've been working out for a long time after having your baby now. If you're needing a little more help or want a little more structure, I'm going to drop the link below for my free download. It's called the Top 4 Doctor Recommended Exercises to Help Fix Your Diastasis Recti. And in that, it's going to walk you through the breathing and bracing we just talked about, but then it's also going to give you 4 actionable exercises that you can start with sets and reps. And so you can get started today. All right. Thank you so much for listening today to episode 1. So excited. If you're looking for help either keeping your core strong during pregnancy to help you decrease pain and have a smoother labor and delivery, or you're looking for a doctor-designed, efficient postpartum plan, we're talking like 20 minutes a day, 3 to 4 days a week, check the links below. I've linked all of my plans there. You can learn more and get back to being the athlete that you are. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. Every Mom is an Athlete isn't just a podcast. It's a reminder. Motherhood is athletic, and you're still the athlete you've always been. But it's not about going back. It's about moving forward intentionally and powerfully. If this episode resonated with you, I'd so appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend, leave a quick review, or rate the show. It helps more moms to hear what they need to believe, that every mom is an athlete. See you next time.